could Bitcoin threaten gold?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, right, they're saying Bitcoin is digital gold. So why do I need real gold if I can have digital gold? But the problem is it's not digital gold. I mean, that's just BS, right? You can't replace gold with Bitcoin in any of its actual use cases, right? I mean, I'm wearing this watch, right? This watch has gold in it, right? I got this gold bracelet from Monet, right? Monet.com, right? They can't make this bracelet with Bitcoin. You want to make this bracelet, you need gold. Now, you can make one out of silver. If you don't want to have one out of gold, you can use a different metal. But if you want a gold bracelet, you can't use Bitcoin, right? Computer chips, there's gold in there, little bits of gold to conduct electricity. You can't put Bitcoin in the computer chip instead of gold. They use gold in dentistry. They use it in aerospace. There's all sorts of industrial applications. In none of those applications can you substitute Bitcoin, right? It's not a metal, let alone a precious metal. It's not even tangible. It's a string of numbers. And there's 20,000 other cryptos that you could use instead of Bitcoin. So it's just, to me, the whole thing, is just a giant blockchain letter. People attribute value to Bitcoin that it doesn't have. It has a price. I mean, I don't argue with that. I mean, you can put a price on anything. I mean, look at Peloton. During the pandemic, Peloton shares were 170. Now they're 3. So was Peloton worth $170 a share? Well, that's what the price was, because some idiot was willing to buy it at that price. Doesn't mean the company was, fundamentally worth that much. So sure, someone could buy Bitcoin and pay $64,000 for it. Does that mean it's got $64,000 worth of value? No, it's just got that market value because somebody was willing to pay that price.
What do you think Bitcoin is actually worth?
I don't know what it's worth. It may not be worth anything. It may be worth some nominal amount. I mean, what if it's worth $100? I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. At this point, it's irrelevant whether it's worth $0 or $100. Because if it goes to $100, it might as well go to 0 for 99.9% of the people who own it, right? They're going to be effectively wiped out if Bitcoin goes to 100, even if it goes to 1,000, right? From 60,000, right? You've lost pretty much everything. It has to be worth, something near the current price, which I can't imagine what Bitcoin could possibly do that would create that much value. And for a lot of the use cases that people are coming up with, like ordinals, right? Like, hey, I created an ordinal too. It's called Golden Triumph, right? It's a picture of an arm holding up a gold bar, right? I put it on an ordinal on the Bitcoin blockchain, and you could buy them at Magic Eden now. We sold out of them. There was like 50 of them, but they're trading. You could buy an ordinal, but you could put the ordinal on a Satoshi. That's all you need is one. There's 21 quadrillion Satoshis. I mean, there's enough for everybody in the world to have a few 100,000 Satoshis. And so I don't see where there's a shortage of these things. You don't need a whole Bitcoin, right? You just need a Satoshi. There's no real difference between a Satoshi and a Bitcoin other than the fact that a Bitcoin is a whole bunch of Satoshis. Now, people say, well, but an ounce of gold is just a whole bunch of specks of gold. Yes, but you can't do anything with a speck, right? You actually need a specific quantity. You want to make this gold Rolex. I think there's maybe 6 ounces of gold in there. You can't make it with 1 ounce. You need 6 ounces, right? You need that specific quantity to do that job. But I don't need any quantity of Satoshis to do any job because you can't do anything with them. All you can do is give them to somebody. And so I don't see what's so unique about that. I mean, all these other cryptocurrencies you can transfer. And look, I can use PayPal, I could use Venmo, I could use Zelle. There's all sorts of ways that I can transfer a payment to somebody over the internet cheaply, quicker than Bitcoin. And if you really like a digital currency, then tokenize gold. I mean, there's already a bunch of these tokens out there. There'd be a lot more if it wasn't for the regulatory cost. But all you have to do is take gold, tokenize it, and now gold can circulate as a digital payment. I can own gold, and I can transfer that ownership to anybody in the world instantly, practically free. And I'm just, instead of sending you my gold, I'm sending you the token that signifies ownership of that gold. The gold just stays in a vault, and the ownership goes from one person to another.
What do you think it would take for Bitcoin to go to $100?
The absence of buying. It doesn't even take a lot of selling. It just takes the absence of buying, right? Because if people decide they don't want to buy Bitcoin anymore, and why do people want Bitcoin? The vast majority of the buying is because people think they're going to make a lot of money buying it, right? They think that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up and they're going to get rich. And then they're going to sell their Bitcoin and buy a car, a boat, a house, take a vacation, buy new clothes. So everybody's buying Bitcoin wants to sell it at some point. They can only sell it if there's somebody else who is equally confident that from that point, the price will go up. So now they can buy a house and a car and a boat or whatever they want. But if people stop believing in the fairy tale, then you run out of buyers. Now, without buyers, how do people sell to get the things they want? That they can't. So the price will collapse, right? So I think it's not going to be that everybody starts selling. It's going to be that new people stop buying. And then as the price really starts to fall, maybe, I don't think the true believers, the hardcore Bitcoiners, they're not going to be fazed by Bitcoin going from 60,000 to 40,000, right? They've seen that before, been there, done that, right? Bitcoin always comes back. That may not be the case for the people who just bought into the Bitcoin ETFs. I think they're going to be the first ones out, right? They were the last ones in. They're going to be the first ones out. They're not long-term hodlers, even if they bought the one with the symbol hodl. They're traders, I think. I mean, if they were real Bitcoin people, they would have bought years ago. They wouldn't have waited for an ETF. They got kind of suckered into it by the hype and the promotion, and they thought they could make some money. And that's going to be a big problem for Bitcoin too when the ETF starts to sell off because if you go back and look at prior Bitcoin crashes, you always have a big influx of Tether. There's a lot of Tether, whether they're counterfeit Tether, we'll see. But Tether comes in and buys up Bitcoin, and that puts in a bottom. But when the ETFs start to liquidate, and now they have to take the Bitcoin that they own into the spot market and sell it, the buyer has to pay with real dollars. They can't pay with Tether. And there may not be enough of those that want to buy Bitcoin. And so I think that the next Bitcoin crash is going to be pretty big because I think it's going to start in the ETFs and it's going to exacerbate the decline when you have all these market orders. Sell me Bitcoin at the market, whatever the price is. No limits. Just get me out by the end of the day. I have to get out. I can't wait till tomorrow. I have to be out today. And then of course, the buyers are like, well, I'm not buying. Everybody steps away and it's a trap door. But so let's say now the ETF selling drives Bitcoin down to 10,000, right? Not 20,000, not 10,000. And now you look at these charts like, wait a minute, Bitcoin just went below the previous low. It's now lower than it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. The trend is broken. I think at some point you're going to shake the confidence of the hodlers who are going to be like, I don't know if it's going to come back again. Maybe this is different. And they're going to want to sell. And as it goes down, then you get the fear. Then you get, oh my God, I better get out before it's worthless, right? Even the diehards are like, I'm not going down with this ship. I mean, there are some people that say they're going to go down with the ship, but let's see what happens when it's actually sinking and they're, up to their neck. Are they really going to, finish and drown? Or are they going to try to salvage something? Because, there are people too that still bought in at much lower prices. So they can still sell Bitcoin at 5,000 and make a profit. There's not that many people left anymore that have a cost basis that low. But, there are going to be some of them. Are they going to let that turn into a loss or are they going to sell? So I think the whole dynamic can change. Right now, everybody is very confident, very sure of themselves. They're all going to get rich. Everything else is a bunch of FUD. Tune it out. Guys like Peter Schiff or Warren Buffett or any person who talks sense is just a boomer who doesn't get it. We're trapped in the Stone Age. I mean, I just laugh. Online, all these people, Peter Schiff is smart about so many things, but he's an idiot about Bitcoin. It's like, no, if I'm smart about everything else, why would I be so dumb? It's like, well, if Peter only studied Bitcoin, so you think I haven't studied it? You don't think I haven't looked at it? They just can't accept the fact that I'm a smart guy who has looked at it, who has studied it, and just doesn't believe it. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid, right? I had a good look at it. I smelled it, right? I just didn't want to swallow it. Now, to answer your question, if people are going to look at it as an alternative to gold, yes, it could be a competitive threat to gold. There's some money that went into Bitcoin, not all of it, not even the majority of it, but some of it that might have gone into gold had it not gone into Bitcoin. Now, gold is a much bigger market than Bitcoin. So how much it might have affected the price, it's hard to say. Maybe gold would be $100 or $200 higher. I don't know if there was no Bitcoin. It's not like gold would be 10,000 or 20,000, but it could be a little bit higher. I don't think at the end of the day that really matters. I mean, I think if you look at gold and Bitcoin, they more often trade in the opposite direction than in the same direction. I mean, Bitcoin is more of an anti-gold than a gold. Bitcoin is risk on. Gold is more risk off. Bitcoin is speculative. Gold is a safe haven store of value. So I really don't see them as competitors. I think Bitcoin competes with AMC or GameStop, or a lottery or gambling on sports, right? I think that's where the Bitcoin money might otherwise go if it wasn't in Bitcoin. And I feel badly, though, for the people who are buying it because they think it's a store of value. They think it's an inflation hedge. They think it's digital gold. They're wrong, right? That's part of the marketing hype, right, of Bitcoin. That's part of the story, the sizzle that they're all selling. I think I'm looking at it objectively because there are other people that are in the gold industry who are also proponents of Bitcoin. I mean, I see them. So it's not like you can't be in the gold business and you can't say, hey, buy gold and Bitcoin. Look, I tell people to buy gold in stocks. And in fact, I didn't start Schiff Gold until 2010. I started my broker-dealer in 1996. So for about 13 or 14 years, I owned my own broker-dealer, yet I kept telling people to buy gold. Not from me. I said, just go find and buy it. I was trying to get people to invest with me in the stock market. I was a stockbroker. And I said, but you should also have some gold. And I knew that if people went out and bought gold, they couldn't send me that money to invest in the stock market, but I still recommended it, right? So it's not like I only recommend gold because I sell gold. I recommend gold because I think people should own it. And the reason I ended up starting a Schiff Gold was because a lot of people who were buying gold after I told them to were getting ripped off by companies who were selling them overpriced numismatics instead of bullion. And so I set up my own company so I knew that people wouldn't get ripped off. And so I was very consistent. I recommended it before I had Schiff Gold, and I continue to recommend it after I started Schiff Gold. So I could tell people, hey, put 5% of your money in Bitcoin if I believed in it. And I would have done it myself if I believed in it. People tell me, oh, we think you secretly have Bitcoin. Why would I keep it a secret? Nobody who owns Bitcoin keeps it a secret. I mean, in fact, the minute you buy Bitcoin, you have to tell everybody else to buy it. That's part of the thing. It's like they're like the Harry Kushners of the investment world. You have to proselytize. You have to convince new people to buy it, right? Ever go to dinner, have a Thanksgiving, some family members in Bitcoin, telling everybody, they got to buy Bitcoin.
I've noticed that with Tesla, when you buy a Tesla, you tell everyone else that you just bought a Tesla and you convince other people to also buy a Tesla.
Well, that's a little bit different. Maybe, you kind of really like your Tesla and you enjoy driving it and you're bragging about it, but, you're not going to sell your Tesla at a profit one day. Bitcoin needs new converts, right? The way Bitcoin goes up is people have to buy it. So you have to convince people. Now, people will say, well, that's the same thing with every other asset. No, it's not. If I buy a dividend-paying stock, nobody else has to buy those shares. I'll collect the dividends and make plenty of money. If I buy rental property, nobody has to buy my property. I'm collecting rent. If I buy a bond, I'm collecting interest. I don't need new buyers to have a return on an investment. That's just not true. Now, yes, if you buy a stock that doesn't pay any dividends, you need the price to go up. But why would the price go up? Well, in theory, because the earnings came up and the company eventually paid a dividend because it had earnings. But Bitcoin is never going to have any earnings. It's never going to pay a dividend. Now, you can say, well, neither does gold. Well, gold doesn't have to. It's a commodity. You use it for things, just like every other commodity. Wheat, soybeans, corn, cotton. These things are all used. You can buy them and hold them and trade them, but they have an underlying use. Bitcoin does not. People say, well, but I can give my Bitcoin to somebody else. Yes, I know that. You can give anything to somebody else. That doesn't mean it has a use, because what does the person you gave it to do with it? Nothing, but give it to somebody else. It's a hot potato. right? And yes, you can say, well, but I can do it quickly. Well, yes, you can transfer other things quickly too. But one of the reasons it's so quick and inexpensive to transfer Bitcoin is because you're transferring nothing. It's a lot more expensive to transfer something than to transfer nothing. But there are 20,000 other nothings, and most of them you could transfer quicker and cheaper than you can Bitcoin.